Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this session on life-centered design. We're really excited to talk about this topic, and I think we can all arguably agree that we haven't quite figured out life-centered design. So today is meant to be a session about discussion and engaging. You'll hear from a number of our speakers around how they are trying to incorporate this into their work, but we're going to create quite a bit of space for talking in small groups. So be thinking about the questions that you have and the challenges that maybe you're facing in your own work. I'll kind of take us through today. So I'll introduce myself, actually. My name's Emily Carroll. I'm with IDE. And my colleague Elise is also from IDE, and I'll be introducing all the speakers and kind of carrying us through today. First, this is kind of where we're headed. I'll bring up Kohler to kind of help set the stage and share how they're using their framework to consider environment in their design cycle. Then I'll move us into the round robin, where you'll hear from 3 implementing organizations around how they're incorporating this into their work and moving towards life-centered design. And then we'll hear from Witten and Roy Partnership around maybe some of the challenges from moving from human-centered and market kind of based design to life-centered design. And then finally, we'll have about 20-ish minutes for a small group discussion where you'll be able to engage with our speakers. So these are our speakers today. First, Lindsay Stradley, the co-founder and executive director of Fresh Life, will be speaking from her experience. Tyler Roy, the head of design at Witten and Roy Partnership. Saiful Islam, CEO of Max TapWater. Elise Mann, senior manager of Global Wash at IDE. And Ratish Namboothiri, director of innovation for good and sustainability at Kohler. So you'll get to hear from all of them today and their perspectives. So maybe a few grounding things. One, in the urgency of climate change, I think we can agree that it's imperative to consider environmental factors when we're designing solutions, which is why life-centered design is the topic that we wanted to bring to discussion today. And if we've done our job right in this session, hopefully you'll leave actually with more questions, maybe than answers. And thinking about this in a little bit more critical way, and maybe have some new ideas to take back home with you. So what is life-centered design? I think there isn't one shared definition of this. So I'd love to hear from this beautiful group of people what you think life-centered design is. And feel free to actually just call out if you're feeling so enthusiastic this morning. Any words or thoughts from people?
Ecological.
I heard ecological. Functionality. Okay, great. Any others? Yeah.
So it's designing markets that support life instead of maximizing returns.
Yeah, markets that support life instead of maximizing returns. Any other?
HCD plus.
What do you mean by HCD?
Human-centered design plus, so sort of as a foundation, but then keep going beyond just humans.
Cool. Yeah, human-centered design plus. I like it. Anything else?
Conservation of the environment.
Conservation of the environment, yeah. I think that's why we're here. All right. I think that's a great list, and I think we'll be able to add a few more words to that definition after our presentations today. Maybe some other things to be thinking about as we get into the session. These are 2 visuals that start to shift the paradigm for life-centered design. The image on the left both kind of acknowledges the sort of basic human needs at the center part, and then also expands out to really the ecological factors that we need to be including into our thinking. So we're striving for solutions kind of in the green area, light green area. And then the image on the right is sort of shifting from this kind of humans as the top part of the pyramid, the primary focus, to a more equitable distribution across like an ecosystem. And then at IDE, we're really at this moment of exploring the shift in our organization. We are an organization that is powering entrepreneurs to end poverty. And so we're looking at moving from a focus on just impact on community and impact on business to life-centered design, and how community, business, and the environment kind of all come together. So this is our little visual, so to speak. And with that, I'm going to bring up Ratish Namboothiri from Kohler to talk about some of Kohler's environment-centered design.
Good morning. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes. Good morning and good afternoon for folks on the call. So my name is, like Emily mentioned, my name is Ratish Namboothiri. I'm the head of sustainability and innovation for good for Kohler. For those of you who don't know much about Kohler, we're a global brand headquartered in Kohler, Wisconsin in the US. We're a manufacturer of plumbing products, energy products, and we're also in the hospitality business as well. We've been around for 150 years. This is our 150th anniversary, so really proud of that. So before I get into showing you examples of how we practice life-centered design in our design process, I wanted to maybe talk a little bit about what that means to us and why we do that. So fundamentally, you see the principle believing in better and what that is. So to us, when you think about a brand of our scope and scale, if we had to integrate something like environmental considerations into our design process, we have to always think about how do we align environmental considerations and sustainability to what is core, the core competencies of our organization. And as we think about our core competencies, it really is all about using design and innovation to provide amazing and gracious consumer experiences for anybody that uses our products. That's really what we're fundamentally about. So we think about how can we include or sort of expand the scope of that work by including life-centered design and design for environment as part of that. So I'll talk to you about what that means for us. And we do that through the lens of what we call believing in better, which is a fundamental belief. We truly believe this, that our best today can be better tomorrow. And we use a framework like this. So if you think about our products, our operations, our supply chain, our services we offer, all of those things can be designed to contribute towards a better planet. Those things can be designed to build better communities where we live and operate. And those can be really, truly designed to enrich the lives of people that use our products and services. This is fundamentally why we're doing it. These are the outcomes we're trying to accomplish as part of how we integrate life cycle thinking into our design. But what does that mean from a practicality standpoint? So the chart on the left, I think we've all heard of the phrase people, planet, and profit a few times. I wanted to talk about what that means for us. So, I talked about our fundamental core competency around designing for an amazing consumer experience. And that's on the top. That continues to be sort of a foundation for why we do things and how we do things. So designing for an amazing user experience, the people side of things. The second part of the second design element is really about designing for cost. So that, just to clarify, that does not mean designing for the lowest cost possible. It really means designing solutions that offer a variety of different price points and make the solution accessible to whoever across the income pyramid is looking for it, depending on the channel and the market. And then the third principle, this is something we've started to operationalize into our new product development and our operations and our supply chain in the last few years, is called design for environment. Not new, it's sort of ironic that it comes together with the life-centered design principle, but this is something we use we put all of our new products through this process to ensure that it's A, part of how we design products, it's not an afterthought, and B, allows us to assess on a factual basis the trade-offs that are offered from various design choices. So let me talk you through what that means. So the chart on the right shows what we call the DFE wheel, DFE being designed for environment. These are the 8 stages of life cycle a product is typically designed for, from our vantage standpoint. So you look at the function, the innovation, the material choices that go into the product, the production, operational environmental footprint associated with the transportation, the actual use of the product in the field, the longevity, the life of the product, and then the end of life. So what the design for environment process really allows us to do is use some mathematical models to assess the environmental impact, environmental attributes of the design across each of those life cycle phases of the product. And it also allows us to make sure that we're making conscious choices and trade-offs. So for instance, we don't want to design an extremely water efficient product that uses a lot of energy or uses materials that have a lot of toxic substances in it. Or on the flip side, we don't want to design an extremely energy efficient product that uses a lot of water. So design for environment really allows us to optimize and make sure that we're balancing water use, material choices, and greenhouse gas emissions across the board, across the entire life cycle of the product. And that's really what we're trying to do. So I'm going to give you an example of a business within Kohler that is using these principles to bring products to life, and that is Innovation for Good. So that's the business we're part of. Think of us as a little small startup business or a social enterprise within Kohler. And our charter is to bring new innovations to market that have a social purpose, and we align ourselves to the SDGs. And the way we do that is we have an internal Shark Tank, if you would, that we use. It's called the iPrize, and we announce a challenge, an innovation challenge every year. And we invite every associate, which is a little over 40,000 associates around the world. We invite every associate in the company to pitch their idea. And then the ones that move forward go into what we call an incubation phase, where we actually develop proof of concepts, test them in the field, iterate, learn from that, and then move it into business development or commercialization. The reason I'm sharing this with you is this is more to talk about how life-centered design fits into this. So design for environment really comes in through the incubation and the business and the commercialization phases. That's where the product concept actually takes shape. And that's where we truly believe is important to think about the entire life cycle of the product and think about the right environmental decisions we have to make. We've been doing this for a few years now, have some meaningful impact to share across the globe. Happy to talk more in detail when we have an opportunity about it. But what this means from a proof point standpoint is we've got some products in the market, some of them in the market and some of them in development, that have gone through this process of design for environment and life cycle thinking. Kohler Cleanse is a hand washing station that we launched a couple months ago, and would love to share more about that. Kohler Loop is our first waterless container-based toilet that we're actually working with Fresh Life and that team to bring to market. Kohler Unify is an automated power blending device that we're working with a partner, Water Mission, to bring to market. And Rinse is another ceramic toilet that helps bring safe sanitation, gracious sanitation, I should say, to communities that don't have it. Again, solutions that were designed using life-centered thinking and, more importantly, designed for environment from the beginning of the product so that that doesn't become an afterthought. So I'm going to leave you guys with that, and I'm going to invite all of you that are in person here to stop by our booth. We've got actual physical displays of all of these products, and would be happy to talk to you a little bit about how we've designed those products, what are some of the choices we made along the way from a life cycle perspective, and what those led to from an outcome standpoint. So thank you. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer those. Emily, I'll have you back.
Great. Thank you, Ratish. Now I believe we are going to move to Lindsay Stradley of Sanergy. I think. Yeah. Oh, Fresh Life. I apologize, Lindsay. I got confused with the slides for a second there. Come on up.
Great. Yes, I'm Lindsay Stradley, co-founder of the Sanergy Collaborative, and in particular, I lead Fresh Life, which is our sanitation services nonprofit, and that's what I'll focus on here, but indeed, both names or brands work just fine. So as Fresh Life and across the whole value chain, we deliver transformative, non-sewered sanitation solutions in low-income urban areas. And how we've thought of this over the last 12 years, I would have used words, like I said, like human-centered design approach and a circular economy, thinking about how we're trying to make sure that not only is the waste safely managed, but it's, we capture those nutrients and reuse them. And I'm excited today to shift or sort of broaden that thinking into life-centered design, some of the principles that Emily shared at the top. So in this sort of circular economy or life-centered design approach, as Fresh Life, our focus is to design and implement safe, cost-efficient sanitation and waste management products and services. And then again, specifically, Fresh Life, we do those 3 blue circles. So within the sort of sanitation circular value chain, we focus on containment, empty, and transport. So this is, again, the design and operations of sanitation services, and then transport of that waste, which we then sell to Regen Organics, our partner in the Sanergy collaborative, that treats and reuses that waste. So to just, what does that look like more specifically? Our primary sanitation services are as container-based sanitation. I'm excited to see a few other folks from the Container-Based Sanitation Alliance. So a lot of the principles, sort of the processes I'll talk about, and the principles that we ascribe to as Fresh Life, I think will resonate across container-based, many of the other container-based sanitation organizations. Our primary toilet is called the Fresh Life Toilet. It's a private shared facility. So it's primarily in residential context. So for example, in the Nairobi informal settlements or low-income areas, there's often not going to be space to have an individual, to have a toilet in an individual household, and so these will be shared by a group of neighbors within one safe, closed compound. So this will be our primary product. And then we provide, sort of most critically, regular, safe waste collection services. This is done by members, by our staff who are from the communities that we serve. And this is a critical part of ensuring not just that there's a great user experience, a really great toilet, but that waste is regularly, so on a daily basis, safely collected and transported. We also work with manual emptiers of pit latrines. So again, our primary work is with container-based sanitation, but we also operate 3 transfer stations. We call this work Mtaa Fresh, which is fresh communities. So again, very much inspired by this life-centered design process. How do we make sure that we're not just creating products, but really taking a holistic view to how we can provide services that make sure the entire community, that everyone in the communities that we serve has great sanitation, and all waste that's in that community is being safely managed. So in this case, we work in a few areas with manual emptiers of pit latrines. We've helped to created community-based organizations that have professionalized and sort of standardized the work that they do to make it safer for them and for the communities that they serve. So, much less spillage, for example. And then probably most critically, as then they bring that waste to the transfer stations that we operate, where we make sure that becomes safely treated. So across all of those activities, we are working in partnership with 4 cities. We started 12 years ago in Nairobi, Kenya, and that is still our largest operations. A few years ago, we then started a partnership with Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company, and then just last year with the Eldoret Water and Sanitation Company. And most recently this year, I have a partnership with Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company in Zambia. So across all 4 of those cities, we think of our impact, across how are we serving our customers, but really benefiting, so taking again that life-centered design approach, benefiting, impacting the communities across a few dimensions. So the first is particularly around health and dignity. So sort of the basic health systems and individual health and quality of life benefit that comes from having great sanitation. Our network of 7,500 container-based sanitation facilities serves more than 250,000 people daily with safe sanitation. We then also look very much at the environmental impact. Obviously, it's a key part of why we every day collect and safely manage the waste from our entire network. On an annual basis, that comes to 17,000 tons of fecal sludge from our container-based sanitation network. And then on top of that, all of the fecal sludge that's coming into our 3 TapFresh pit transfer stations that serve about 50,000 people. Across all those activities, that means we are offsetting about 20,000 tons of CO2 equivalent emissions, again, on an annual basis, and saving about 1 billion liters of water if you were to compare to serving the same size population in water-based sanitation. And then finally, just as importantly, is that we want to make sure that we're leaving the communities not only healthier, at this kind of the intangible quality of life, but also the local economies of the communities where we work stronger. And it's most easily seen in income generation and job creation. So our network is actually operated by people from the community. We call them Fresh Life operators. They're like community-based entrepreneurs who operate that network for themselves, for their neighbors, and there are nearly 6,000 of these small entrepreneurs running our network. We then have another 400 full-time staff, mostly from the communities where we work, and when we work right now with about 55 manual emptiers, which not only has led their work to be healthier and healthier impact on their communities, but really stabilize the incomes for the previously very erratic and low cost, high risk work that they've done. So these are the dimensions that we've looked at. So again, thinking about health and quality of life, environment across a number of factors, and economic development. And this is, we hadn't until recently sort of begun to think of this or apply this framing as life-centered design. But I think that the approach that we have taken over the course of our work, and again that I see throughout other container-based sanitation operations, is very aligned to this life-centered design. I think there are the challenge, and I'll tee this up and we'll have some discussion later, but the challenge that brings is that the costs for implementing safely managed sanitation in this life-centered design approach, so making sure that you're having not only the health but the environmental and economic benefits. That means that the costs of that are much greater than the revenues that we collect from our low-income customers. And that's an intentional choice. We are not pricing to cover those costs. We are pricing to make our services accessible and maximize that impact. And that gap, I think, is reflective of the challenges of how do you begin to shift markets and who pays for addressing those externalities that are captured within, that are addressed within a life-centered design approach. So I don't have the answers. There are certainly things we're doing, but in the later discussions, would love to hear some of the group's thoughts on how we can continue to shift sanitation markets in ways that support this life-centered design approach. So with that, I'll give it back over to Emily. Thanks.
Thank you, Lindsay from Fresh Life. Really appreciate that presentation and that question at the end. I think that's one that a lot of us are wrestling with. So now I'm going to invite up Saiful from Max TapWater to share a little bit more about their work. Come on up, Saiful.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Saiful Islam. I'm the CEO of Max TapWater. Max TapWater is a small-scale pipe water social enterprise working in Bangladesh in the southern coastal area. So how we are a life-centered water enterprise, how we are behaving environmentally responsibly, we will talk more about that. First, let's learn about the organization more. We have been working for, say, last 2 years. Now, if we look back, what is the situation in the water supply system or access to fresh water and safe water in Bangladesh. So you can see that 73 million people do not have access to safe water. 5% of rural people have only access to pipe water connection. And because of that, women are the primarily responsible person, or I would not say responsible, I mean from social stigma, they are given with this job to carry the safe water for drinking and serving some other purpose. And so they spend on an average 90 minutes per day for carrying the water back to their home. And then 87% of the people use unsafe water for other household works, because drinking is not the only thing, that's how you intake the water, which is actually resulting in suffering from different kind of waterborne diseases and using unhygienic toilets. So because public tube oil are far away, it takes manual labor, and it's not possible to carry abundant amount of water. So alternatively, some solution came in, which were primarily done by NGOs, and government actually initiated some public tube wells only. What we have seen lately is that these solutions are not sustainable. So we have been, because of time shortage, I had some videos to show, but I can't show these videos now. But what we wanted to show is that the surface water from ponds or nearby canals seems very unsafe. You can see that green, contaminated, and so on. So if someone take baths in that, if someone cleans or rinses clothes, if they are cleaning their utensils, they will definitely suffer from waterborne diseases. So Max Tap Water is the organization that have brought the changes in life. So this is just one example. They have built a toilet. My friend just have talked about the toilet. But what motivates, what ignites someone to build a nice toilet? Only when they have pipe water connection. And you see, the house is not a very well built one. It's built by a very basic material, but they are inserting a hand wash basin in there. And that's how hygiene starts. Now, with one grid, we improve the access to water, promote health, gender equality, and economic opportunity. In our one pipe water grid, we provide 70 to 80 household connections of safe and running water. The clients pay one-time connection fee and monthly subscription, or say on consumption per meter cube they pay. And each water grid creates one job of operator. We actually recruit the operator from the locality or from the community. On an average, we have also seen that it leverages investing 1,800 euro per water grid by the users. And our work are actually contributing on SDG 3, 5, 6, and 8. How? I'm going to explain it later, but to give you some brief information, what is our progress? It's important to let you know that Max Foundation Bangladesh had been piloting what would be the possible good solution for last 4 years, previous 4 years. From last 2 years, Max TapWater team has been developed, and we have been developing the operational excellence, construction, and so on. So we have built 33 piped water grids till now, where we are providing connection of, say, 1,773, which is 1,800 connections, continuous running and safe water at home. 6,600 men, women, and children are covered. We have created 50 jobs. And if you look the bottom right part, which is very important, 2,660 labor hours per day has been saved. The women do not have to go and carry the water. Just briefly to let you know about how we are contributing to SDG. You all know about SDG. But say, when we have pipe water connection, then there has been no health issue from waterborne diseases. Women do not have to carry water, and that's how we create gender equality. They can contribute positively in development to their family. And health, water is the thing that we are doing, and from hygiene perspective, when you have abundant safe water, your toilet is become a very hygiene toilet. And also, finally, we are also creating economic opportunity by recruiting people from the local community. We have, I would say we have developed some success. How do we do that? We have carefully developed a error-proof selection and construction system of the site, which was a difficult one. We have developed a capable team, and our operational excellence would be eye-catching one. We have, say, very good tariff collection rate, 96%. We have very little downtime, less than 1%. And our connection growth is 60% because people see it very positively. Our secret of success is that we are leveraging the work of our sister concern, Max Foundation, the organization. Our operators are recruited from the local community. They act as the bridge between the community and the organization. And also, our marketing campaigns are successful because we talk about the problem solving. We do not talk about we sell our product. We solve your problem. That's how it works. And good part is that all our grids are operationally successful. But as a company, we will break even when we will be able to build 130 water grids. We aspire to build, say, 180 pipe water grids within 5 years. But with more private and public investment, it can scale up much more. There are a few challenges interesting to share with you as well. Because there is no close competitor, people perceive government as the competitor. And now the government subsidized rate are compared sometimes, which is a bit unfair, I would say. And government tax rules are sometimes also creates bar, and we think that needs more enabling environment to do such noble work. Globally, high inflation is also a barrier, I would say, because it actually increases the capex. Now, lesson learned also. You have to be kind. You have to be cruel only to be kind. Why I'm saying so? Because you are becoming very kind, we are giving water and people are exploiting. But we want to be a responsible organization. We install meters so that nobody exploits. Everyone carefully use groundwater. Now, let's talk. We are very close to our end of our presentation. So we are trying to develop a human-centered design. We care about the water quality. We regularly check at least 7 parameters of water quality: arsenic, iron, salinity, coliform, and so on, which are recommended by WHO. So we have developed a protocol and we regularly check it. We also regularly clean our pipe network and the tank. So we have tested our water is germ-free, and all these 7 parameters are within the range. To create further standard, to develop further standard, we are installing UV light so that there is no bacteriological contamination in any case in our pipe water system. Now, to think about the next stage and becoming a environmentally responsible organization, we have been installing the meters in the households so that people do not exploit waters, they don't waste water. This responsible usage of water is conserving groundwater. That's how we behave as an environmentally responsible organization. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. Any question? I welcome. Please. Yes. Yes.
So, what is the how you are operating? Your power system is electricity or solar system?
Electricity now.
And what is the water tariff? Household rate?
For per meter cube, we are charging 26 taka now.
From your water tariff, your O&M cost, operational maintenance cost covered, or there is any deduction?
It's kind of covered in direct operational level, but say for instance this year electricity price cost has been increased 3 times, which is increasingly creating the challenge, and also the calculation of say offsetting the total cost of the company. We are in a continuous challenge of that because of this sharp rise of cost from different sides.
You are giving some subsidy for operational maintenance.
No, right now we are not giving much subsidy for operation and maintenance now.
Thank you.
I see another question.
So we're going to have some small group discussion. You'll have plenty of opportunity to engage and ask more questions, but I want to give our other two speakers an opportunity to share a little bit about their work, and then we'll transition into the small group. Yes, and then you'll obviously have plenty of opportunity to talk afterwards. Thank you so much, Saiful. So now I'm going to bring up my colleague Elise Mann from the Global WASH team to talk about IDE's work in MHM.
Hi, everyone. So IDE has sold over 1.6 million toilets to date. We work through markets to deliver high-quality wash products and goods. And we have reached over 40 million people in the last 40 years. And normally, when I'm talking around our wash work, I'm usually talking about sanitation. But today, I'm really excited to talk to you all about some emerging areas in menstrual health and hygiene. So our 4 principles here I have up because a human-centered design project that we did about 4 years ago, starting with people. We were talking to a bunch of different people to understand young people in the sanitation value chain in Ethiopia. It was the first human-centered design project that I worked on at IDE. And we heard again and again, you're looking at the wrong topic. And so a lot of people were sharing that they were much more concerned about hygiene and privacy. So thinking both about showers and menstruation started coming up again and again and again. So with that information, we've slowly been starting some additional research to design to context around menstrual health and hygiene, specifically in Ethiopia. And I'm gonna use this space to figure out a little bit about the best role that ID can have in delivering for menstrual health and hygiene. So some facts for menstrual health and hygiene in Ethiopia. You've got 24.1 million girls and women of reproductive age across the country. 84% of Ethiopia's population live in rural areas, but most of that commercial market is really based in Addis. So there's a big demand and a big potential in rural areas. You've also got 99% of commercial products that are reliant on importing. And 28% of menstruators report having everything they need to manage their menstruation. So there's a really big potential market. As IDE, we really are focused on what is that value add that we can have and how can we help facilitate that larger market. So really specifically, looking at this number, 49% of girls in rural areas reported using sanitary pads. And then some research that our colleagues have done within the country look at the potential market size. So it could be 600 million USD by 2030. There are a number of existing current products I've got listed here, most of which are based in Addis and a couple of other areas throughout the country. So what we did was our team in Ethiopia did both a market analysis and started talking to community members about their experiences of menstruation, knowledge, barriers, where they started learning about menstruation. Was it their mom? Was it their aunt? Was it their friends? And what we learned was it was really dependent. It depended on who was in school, it depended on what your family's relationship was like, and if your mom was gonna talk to you about it, or if it was gonna come up when it came up and you'd learn quickly. We have a large amount of research that I'd be delighted to talk to you about more in the small groups, but really want to call out this piece about the lack of supply chain for products in rural areas. So through 2 different rounds of qualitative research, we heard again and again from young women particularly, they were interested in menstrual products, but didn't have the ability to find them in most of the areas that they were living in. From an opportunities standpoint, we've been exploring distribution, sustainable business model, and that increased choice and dignity for menstruators. I'm not going to read through the details here, but would really highlight that what we're trying to figure out now is that sustainable business model, as well as with that increased choice and that increased focus on dignity, that we also need to be thinking about that product life cycle. So disposal is a huge issue around menstruation and something that again and again we see as a challenge across all of our programs when thinking about disposing either in the grounds or in your latrine. And there are a bunch of gaps that are existing within this market, from sourcing of materials, thinking about absorbent pads, ways to access those materials, mostly in larger cities. Some of that absorbent material has to get imported. The demand creation, if people knew about, if menstruators knew about products beyond cloth, beyond however they were already using products to manage their cycle, then they were interested in thinking about trying out other types of products. But if they hadn't learned much about what products could be available in bigger cities, they hadn't thought about it. The waste piece, again, that product life cycle is the challenge that we're having right now, as well as quality and profitability. It's a pretty low margin topic, and so when thinking about bringing in entrepreneurs, businesses, what's the case to sell products around menstruation? And so our teams went back to the same communities where they had already talked to a bunch of people with these 4 products. So you've got Mela for Her, a day pads, both of which are produced in Addis, disposable pads that are imported, and Noble Cup, which is a bright pink menstrual cup. We took them back and started talking to people and gave out some of these products in partnership with the different companies to have people test them out. And this is a map of the currently using versus the want to use. We don't yet have the data back about from taking the products, not just what they wanted to use, but what they've actually used and how they experienced those things. But so what you see is that there isn't a lot of product use in the current using. And there was a lot more interest in reusable pads here on what people self-reported, but very little access given the lack of supply chain. So where we are right now is we're piloting 2 different ways forward. So working with a couple of seamstresses to add in the creation of pads into what they're already making so that they can sell them directly and add it into their existing work. We also have partnered with some retailers for partnerships with the day pads, as well as Mela for Her, and bringing them from Bahadar into these more rural areas. And that is where I will leave you for now and look forward to talking more about it in the small groups.
Thanks, Elise. So thank you to our 3 implementer speakers for sharing on sanitation, water, and menstrual health hygiene. I'm now going to turn it over to Tyler Roy from Whitten & Roy Partnership to talk a little bit about the work that they do and maybe some of the challenges of moving from human-centered to life-centered.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Tyler Roy, and I'm with Witten and Roy Partnership. I'm not a big fan of slides, so this will be the only one up here right now. We're a consultancy that has worked with a lot of people in this room, actually, that I'm seeing right now, including Sanergy, Fresh Life, and IDE. And we work with mostly nonprofits and social enterprises to help them to boost their market-based sales results, right? So I am admittedly a former door-to-door salesperson. Okay, I used to sell insurance knocking on doors in Deep East Texas. And everyone that works with our organization are former salespeople of some type. And we've decided to turn our powers from evil to good, to be able to get people to learn how to sell in a really ethical and sustainable and life-centered way in all over the world. So we've been working in more than 50 countries now and have had more than 450 different projects and have impacted over 5 million people doing this. One of the major challenges that we see with organizations, especially social enterprises and nonprofits, actually isn't that they're not, or isn't that they're too far over in the human-centered design part, but actually that they're kind of too far over in the life-centered design part, right? And so what we see a lot of times is companies trying to sell based on things that do not directly impact the life of the person that is being sold to. When I say that, I mean that they're trying to sell based on things that they are excited about. So environmental impacts, removing carbon from the atmosphere, decreasing violence in the community, things like this that maybe do not directly impact that person, their bottom line, right? They maybe don't have the luxury to think about these things. And so like one organization that we spoke with was selling based upon 6 different environmental factors. And every time that they'd have a sales conversation with a customer, and we're talking in Zimbabwe, very rural Zimbabwe, they would go and they would talk about all 6 of these environmental factors that led to climate change and everything like that. And they said, we have to talk about these because we have to make people care, right? Well, people don't tend to care when they're trying to get by. And so it's very important when you're in your actual sales mindset, when you're having these direct sales conversations, to go forward and really focus on the human-centered design piece, right? And when you're doing social behavior change, and when you're marketing toward the West, and when we're in situations like this is where we can really focus on our life-centered design, our mission work, right? So this is kind of the front of things, and this is kind of the back end of things, the why of what we do, and then the how of what we do. I've got, I'm not going to stay up here forever and talk to you all about this. I'm really looking forward to talking to you in the small groups. I did bring books as well. We call this Sell Well, Do Good. I brought them for free for anybody that wants them, and it's really about really ethical selling as a social enterprise, specifically in the context of working in the developing world. So come and see me, and I'll get you a copy. So thank you.
All right, so now it's the fun part, and opportunity for everyone to kind of come together and engage in some small group discussion. So I'm actually going to invite all of our speakers to come back up to the stage. You can do that now if you want, as I talk. So we're going to have them share a question or a challenge that they're grappling with, and then they're going to go to different parts of the room, and you can organize yourselves based on the question or challenge that you want to dig into. So I'm going to actually start with Lindsay.
Great. Does this work also?
Yeah, it should work.
Okay. So as I teed up at the end of my presentation, I'd love to take up a conversation around how, and sort of picks up where Tyler left off, how as we do, like the motivation, the why we do what we do is all about this all the impacts that come from life-centered design, and yet the what matters most to our customers and what they can quite frankly afford to pay for is not going to cover all those costs. So how do we motivate the other stakeholders, government and donors to sustain and to address that discrepancy, I guess.
Saiful, would you like to?
Thank you. Does it work? Okay. So the presentation, my presentation you have seen, and we discussed about the pipe water in rural area in Bangladesh. One debate has been up there for a long time, whether pipe water solution should be in the rural areas as well. So it's because of the affordability, it's also because of the environmental conservation, it's also because of who will be driving it. So we would like to have this debate and come up to the different logics in for or against. Okay, thank you.
Hey. As you heard, IDE is super early stages in thinking about our menstrual health and hygiene work. I talked about the emerging pilots that we're doing in Ethiopia, and we've got some other challenges, ideas, pilots emerging in other programs around the world. Come talk with me around the types of considerations we should be thinking about and wrestling with related to product life cycle, that long-term systemic engagement with menstruation.
All right, so my challenge is a little different. So we've got, you guys, you've got the eyes and ears of a global brand, a global manufacturer who has access to reasonable amount of resources to innovate and bring meaningful solutions to the market. We'd like to know what are some innovation gaps out there that we can help solve. So what are some of the problems that meaningfully can be solved through the resources and capabilities that we have? So would love to talk about that.
Yeah, so I would like to, in my group, to really talk about what your challenges are when it comes to selling, when it comes to actually entering markets, and maybe find out, where you fall along that human-centered design, life-centered design piece, and maybe talk about the actual conversations that you're having with customers and how you can make those a little bit more effective.
Great. Awesome. All right, you have your challenges and your questions. We're going to spend about 20 to 25 minutes in these groups, so you're going to have an opportunity to really dig in. And I'll bring us all back together with about 10 to 15 minutes left to share reflections from each group. So group leaders, please nominate somebody to share back some reflections from your group at the end of the discussion. But I'm going to point us into some directions. So Saiful, maybe you can go over to this side. Lindsay, do you want to do kind of center here in the front? Ratish, maybe over here. Elise, back left. And then Tyler, maybe back right. All right. You have your marching orders. everyone. Is this working? All right, everyone. Hi. Have like 2 minutes left, so wrap up the conversation, and then I'm going to ask everyone to, each group to nominate somebody to share back some reflections. So 2 more minutes, and then we'll be coming back. Thanks. All right. Let's regroup. All right, groups, let's come back to the entire discussion, maybe. I know people are really invested in the small group discussion, which is great, but we want to have some time for others to hear what you've been talking about. So if everyone can kind of come back, that would be great. Group facilitators, let's bring everyone back. And please have the person that's going to share out key takeaways nominated from your group. Great, thank you. All right. Seifel's group, let's come on back. Thank you. All right. I hope those went well and were really fun discussions, and maybe you left with some more ideas and questions to take back to your work. Lindsay, would you mind nominating? Okay, great. There's a microphone coming your way, and you can share out some key takeaways.
Thank you very much. It's on? Okay, thank you. Okay, oh yeah, maybe it's for online. As Lindsay was sharing her dilemma that users are paying for the sanitation service of Fresh Life, but that doesn't cover the cost of the service at all, and on by a large margin. So how does this get plugged? And so we had a useful recap of the issue that maybe we should do more comparison with incumbent systems like sewers or pits and septic tanks, and comparing them. That showing to the authorities that actually some new systems are actually cheaper, and but we are up against the fact that a lot of current subsidies going to sewers, etc., are hidden or implicit, and are very hard to uncover. So when comparisons are done, they're very often not fair or are based on very shaky assumptions. And there was an interesting discussion on the responsibility for providing these basic services in informal settlements, because very often authorities don't want to acknowledge that there are people to be served there, they're illegal, etc. But we're seeing progress, especially when it comes to water or energy, for example, where authorities accept that even if the area is illegal, they still have a mandate to provide basic services. So how does this get acknowledged for sanitation now? And it's starting to be, Lindsay was sharing how the new areas they're operating in, the authorities are fully assuming the mandate to operate there, but don't yet have the budget to actually cover or subsidize the remaining cost. So that remains an open question on something that I hope will get debated during the week.
Thank you so much. Sounds like a really interesting discussion. Ratish's group, who is going to be sharing out from this group? Maybe it's Ratish. Okay.
So I will just do it. So a really engaging discussion. We had over 10 ideas that were brought up. I'm going to highlight 2 or 3 of them that I think have potential for impact and scale. First was about this concept of gray water and water reuse. So, we talked about why do we truly need to have potable quality drinking water being used for flushing the toilet, and probably not. There may be better uses of that water. So an opportunity to maybe consider using hand washing water for flushing toilets and things like that. So there is a gray water on-site point of use level retreatment opportunity that I think is underexplored. The other thing that was brought up was a household hygiene opportunity beyond drinking water. So certainly hand hygiene, but also showering and bathing facilities. So, one of our colleagues brought up what women would probably want to talk about and aspire for more would be a private bathroom, a bathing facility versus more than a toileting facility. So that's something that has not been explored. And then the third thing that I think is interesting is the opportunity to institutionalize these solutions and bring in a little more rigor in terms of standards, operating standards, performance standards for whether it's a toilet or a hand washing device or what have you, and then create a level playing field for all manufacturers, innovators to bring solutions to the table that meet those minimum performance standards, which will help scale. So that's kind of where we left it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Some great ideas. Elise's group, who is going to be, okay, great. Paul?
Hi. This thing. Okay, there it goes. Yeah. Hi. So I was in the group with Elise with IDE, talking about menstrual health and hygiene products and their efforts to bring products to rural communities and look to scale that up. We talked about a few different things, including supply chain. We talked about kind of, does it make sense to keep sort of an urban and rural split or focus on just one when maybe working with a supply chain, there's a need to have kind of urban partnerships or kind of work in both areas. The main topic we covered was behavior change and kind of overcoming social barriers or taboos in this area. One interesting point we talked about was we want to make sure we're creating access to products, but making sure that's actually that's really leading to more social inclusion. So if girls and women are having access to these products and having more access, but that's not leading to more sort of inclusion in, say, in school or things like that, then there's kind of a need to look at how can that gap be bridged. We had a lot of discussion about working with schools and really engaging them as a partner for providing education. So for younger girls and also for families, kind of thinking about where sometimes taboos or those kind of beliefs are passed down can be through families. So we kind of saw schools as an important partner to kind of overcome those barriers. And even with an approach that may be more based on the market and on selling products rather than a typical, say, NGO nonprofit approach, we saw there's a really good business case to have those kind of partnerships because you're breaking down market barriers and enabling greater sales. So it serves both social and a social and commercial purpose there.
Great.
Anything
Thank
else?
you.
All right,
Awesome.
that's it. It's a good discussion.
Great. Let's go over to Tyler's group. Who from that group is going to be sharing out? All right. It's going to be Tyler. Microphones coming your way.
Hi. So we were fortunate enough that everyone in our group was selling water filters, right? So we got to have a pretty common theme, and we got some common themes out of the challenges that people are facing, and that they're getting, when people are trying to purchase or trying to sell the water filters, they're getting a lot of spousal objections, like I need to go ask my husband or ask my wife. And there's some real problems when it comes to scaling the sales team, right? So it's a really labor-intensive process to scale the sales team, and there's no real magic formula to doing it other than making sure you've got the right sales managers in place, making sure that you've got the right salespeople in place, and making sure that people understand things like how their commissions work, how they're paid, how they can stay motivated and whatnot, and really keeping a very close eye on that. It's a very human process selling, and it requires a lot of kind of human interaction with the sales process. And so I'm seeing a lot of a lot of very similar themes coming out of this group. Did I miss anything? Super. Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And now Seifel's group. Who's going to present from this one? Maybe it's Seifel. Great.
Thank you. We had been in a lot of discussion. A lot of questions were coming up because of, say, maybe people were having a lot of enthusiasm about pipe water. Whether the debate was whether in the rural setting we should be doing pipe water or hand pumping tube wells for water solution. So everyone really liked and voted for installing pipe water to give a great solution. The issue is that it's a big challenge. Who's going to pay for that? And how to make it scalable and sustainable. So the recommendations came out that the government should be stepping into facilitating the private enterprises. So there might be private-public partnership, or government can come into helping by in many other means. I originally thought of some people might have different opinion, but we found that everyone really opted for pipe water because all of them see it as a great solution. Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And then we do have an online contingency. So actually, let's pass the microphone back to Daniel from Kohler, as he has been monitoring the online community. So any key takeaways or reflections or questions?
Yeah, so for the online chat, it was just a general conversation addressing and calling out some of the key barriers to addressing the life-centered design approach. And so some themes that emerged were resistance to change, resource constraints, cultural and social factors, the regulatory and policy environment, capacity building, and measuring, like truly measuring the impact. And then especially affordability, right? And where does that burden fall on, and how do we integrate that into the process as we think about stakeholder alignment, long-term solutions, and scalability of that. We were left, I know we have 1 minute left, so we can, if someone has a quick thought, the chat was left with one question on desirability for this model, and what users see as aspirational may not be ideal, and what if what users see as aspirational may not be ideal for the planet, and where does that conflict lie as we take this approach? So if someone has an initial thought before we wrap up,
That's
since
a
the
big
chat went
one.
unanswered.
That's why we're here today. Yeah, anybody have a final thought that they want to share on that one? Okay, yeah, sure.
I was in sanitation group and I come from Bangladesh. My name is Dibaluk. Just 2 or 3 points. One is we have to separate the sewage or sanitation system in large cities and small towns. There are, apart from sewage, there are other sanitation technologies that can be used in smaller settlements, in smaller towns, like FSM, like Vakutag. Now, problem is the question of costing related to Vakutag, and who is going to pay for that. And for the operator who is operating the FSM field, who is going to pay for that? One option might be that government is going to pay for that. and then attach that bill to the households. And now, the elected representatives who are in the small municipality or larger city corporations, they are not that much interested to attach this bill to their voters, because then comes the question of election, and they might lose. So that is their apprehension. So I think in our country, in Bangladesh, the sewerage system only available till date, only in our capital city Dhaka, also very limited till date, but the construction is going on. But other part, because we are a nation of 170 million, so big challenges, and for rural areas also. And there comes the point that let's say we use double pit toilets. Let's say we use septic tanks. But now, in septic tanks in my country, soak pit is not working because of the water table level. So now, how you come to a solution for those problems? These are some challenges that we as a practitioners we face. So that is my contribution or submission to you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us today, and for all of your discussion and engagement. Hopefully you're leaving with some more ideas and things to carry forward, and maybe some new people in your network. If you do have any questions for any of our speakers, I'm sure they're happy to hang out for the next couple of minutes, but otherwise, enjoy the rest of your World Water Week. Thank you.